What happens when a Hollywood icon sits across from a daytime host who decides to take shots instead of show respect? Live, unscripted, and broadcast to millions, Joy Behar took aim at Harrison Ford, mocking his age, belittling his legacy, and questioning whether he still belonged in the world he helped define. But what she didn't expect was the man behind Indiana Jones to rise, not in anger, but with the quiet fire of someone who's weathered storms far greater than morning TV sarcasm. This wasn't the Harrison Ford of press junkets and scripted sound bites. This was something else. Calm, composed, and devastating. The stage was set under the blinding lights of The View. Fans packed the audience, phones in hand, hoping to catch a glimpse of the man who had outrun boulders, flown the Millennium Falcon, and carved his name into the bedrock of American cinema. At 82, Harrison was promoting his final turn as Indiana Jones. A farewell, a tribute, a closing chapter. He entered in a crisp navy blazer, that familiar crooked smile just beneath a salt and pepper beard. The applause was thunderous, and for a moment there was reverence. Then came Joy. "Welcome, Mr. Ford." She began, her voice sugary with a sharp edge beneath it. Or should I say, polite laughter. Nervous thin, Harrison smiled, nodding slightly. "Well," he said with a shrug, "age happens to the best of us." But Joy didn't stop. "Does it? Or are you just clinging to relevance, dusting off the same old hat and whip? I mean, you've been playing this guy since what? Before some of our viewers were even born." Silence fell. Even the band stopped fidgeting. Harrison folded his hands, looked her in the eye. Storytelling's timeless joy. At least, that's what keeps people coming back. The other hosts stiffened, their cue cards forgotten in their laps. But Joy kept going. Or maybe they come back because they're nostalgic for the old you. The one who wasn't wheezing through action scenes. A few gasps from the crowd. Even the cameramen hesitated. Harrison chuckled, quiet, measured, but his jaw had set. "I can still outrun most people my age," he said, "and probably a few of yours, too." Joy leaned in, her smile now a dare. "Outrun. Maybe. Outact. That's another story. You really think the whole grumpy charm thing still works in today's Hollywood?" Now Harrison leaned forward. His voice didn't rise, but it landed like a weight. "As long as people keep buying tickets, I think it works just fine." Applause bubbled from the back rows, scattered but genuine. Joy waved a hand. "Oh, please, that's just nostalgia talking. No one really cares about your kind of movies anymore." A cold stillness took hold. Even the lights seemed to dim. Harrison crossed one leg over the other, no longer smiling. "You might be right. Or maybe people just care about stories, and it seems, judging by the box office, they still care about mine." Joy leaned back, victorious. Or so she thought. We'll see how long that lasts. But something had shifted. Her hands fidgeted with the cue cards. Her smile faltered. Still, she pushed forward. "Don't you think it's time to step aside? You've had a good run. But isn't it a little ridiculous to keep pretending you're still an action hero?" Gasps. One woman audibly said, "Whoa." Harrison blinked slowly. "Pretending," he said, his voice low. "Well, Joy, acting is pretending. That's the craft. Unless," he let the pause hang in the air, "you thought this was all real." For a full beat, no one breathed. Then the audience erupted, some in support, some in shock. Joy stared, lips parted, momentarily speechless. And Harrison, he adjusted his cufflink, stood up slowly, nodded to the crowd, and walked off the set, without raising his voice, without slamming a thing, but leaving behind a silence that spoke volumes. It was a moment no one expected, and one no one would forget. Because on that morning, Harrison Ford didn't just defend his legacy. He reminded the world why legends don't fade. They rise and walk out with dignity. The audience tittered uneasily. Joy's smile thinned like a stretched thread. "Oh, don't get clever with me, Harrison," she snapped. "What I meant was, these days, when you're on screen, we're all just holding our breath, waiting to see if you break a hip." Laughter fluttered through the studio. awkward, cautious, unsure if they were supposed to laugh or brace for impact. Harrison didn't move. His hand stayed calmly laced in his lap, face unreadable. But his eyes sharp, unblinking. "I see," he said quietly. "Well, I suppose suspense is still better than apathy. That's good storytelling, isn't it?" Joy leaned in, smelling blood. "You know what I think," she said, voice edged like glass. "I think you've coasted on the same grumpy, brooding persona for half a century, and no one had the guts to say it to your face. So let me be the first you're boring now, Harrison. You show up, play the same man in a different jacket, and collect the check. Doesn't that ever make you feel ashamed?" The air snapped taut. Even the cameras seemed to hesitate. A faint mechanical were the only sound in the suspended quiet. Harrison blinked once. Then, softly, "Shame." He let the word settle. "No, Joy. Not once. Because every time I show up, people show up with me. People who grew up with those stories. Who bring their kids to watch them now. That history. That connection. That's worth a little gray and a few bad knees." Polite applause trickled from the crowd. But Joy waved it away like smoke. "Please, stop dressing it up like it's noble," she said. "You're just another overpaid movie star who lucked into longevity. Let's be real. Do you even enjoy acting anymore, or are you just addicted to the spotlight?" The Harrison leaned in now, voice low but exact. "You know, Joy, I didn't come here for your approval, or your analysis of my motivation. I came to talk about a film, a story I care about, that my cast and crew poured themselves into. But you're far more interested in tearing down the storyteller than hearing the story." Joy laughed. Sharp, performative. "Oh, please, don't act like the victim now, Harrison. You've had every opportunity anyone could dream of. But the truth, you're just a cranky old man clinging to the few crumbs of relevance you have left." Harrison sat taller. The glint in his eyes sharpened, though his voice remained composed. "Maybe I am cranky," he said. "But maybe that's because I've been around long enough to tell the difference between someone asking hard questions and someone who just enjoys being cruel." This time, the applause surged, real resonant. Joy slammed her hand on the desk. "Don't flatter yourself," she hissed. "You just can't handle criticism. That's why you'll always be another fragile Hollywood ego, too proud to admit when the magic's gone." Harrison looked down for a moment, then back up, a faint, almost imperceptible smile at the corner of his mouth. "I've handled plenty of criticism in my life, Joy, but I've never confused cruelty for honesty." He sat back. The silence afterward felt seismic. The other hosts said nothing, their eyes flicking nervously between the two. Joy leaned back, narrowing her gaze. She had drawn blood, but not enough. Not yet. "You always were good at pretending to be unfazed," she said coolly. "That stoic act of yours, it must come in handy. Pretending to be unshaken while secretly terrified that one day people will realize you're just another aging man riding his own legend." Gasps rippled through the audience. In the control booth, producers exchanged alarmed glances. The segment had gone off the rails, and deep into territory no one rehearsed for. Harrison tilted his head slightly, as if considering a fly that had landed on his sleeve. His hands never moved. "You know, Joy," he began evenly, "you have a real gift. You can take a lifetime of work, of risk, of dedication, and reduce it to one insult. That's your craft, isn't it? Not comedy, not journalism, just bitter nips." Murmurs of approval. Joy's face flushed. But she doubled down. "Oh, that's rich," she sneered. "Bitterness. This is truth. You've just spent too long surrounded by people who are paid to lie to your face." And now it was Harrison's turn to smile. Not with smugness, but clarity. A man who'd heard the last word and decided it didn't matter. "You wouldn't recognize honesty if it punched you in the gut." Harrison Ford raised an eyebrow, calm as ever. "I've been punched plenty, Joy. On screen. Off screen. This doesn't even sting." The audience chuckled. But Joy leaned in, refusing to surrender the moment. "You're not untouchable," she snapped, her voice climbing. "You walk in here with your little smirk, that whispery cowboy act, thinking charm's a shield. Well, newsflash." She paused, then dropped it. "You're not charming anymore. You're just sad." That word landed with weight. A quiet murmur stirred the audience. Harrison blinked, just once, then slowly leaned forward. His voice dropped low, steady, dangerous. "Sad," he echoed. "You want to know what I find sad?" His eyes locked on hers, unblinking. "Sad is sitting here every morning, tearing into people you've never met, mocking what others spend lifetimes building, just to feel taller in that chair." He motioned slightly toward the table, his tone sharpening. "Sad is having a platform that could lift people, and turning it into a firing squad." The other hosts, Whoopi, Sunny, Sarah, sat frozen, eyes darting between them like they were witnessing a crash in slow motion. But Joy wouldn't back down. She slammed her palm on the table. "Don't you dare lecture me, Harrison Ford. You think you're a hero because you memorized some lines and cracked a whip. Please." Her words spat like venom. "You don't build anything. You don't help anyone. You just pretend and collect checks while the rest of us do the real work." Harrison's mask cracked, just slightly. A breath escaped him. Then, with quiet finality, he pushed his chair back. He stood. The room shrank. "You're right," he said. "I do play pretend. But those stories, they gave people hope. They gave kids heroes. They brought families together. For decades." He leaned forward just enough to meet her gaze directly. "You want to talk about building something? I've built worlds that will outlive every insult you'll ever speak." The silence was deafening. "I don't tear people down to feel tall. That's not work, Joy. That's cruelty wrapped in sarcasm and passed off as relevance." The audience rippled. First quiet, then louder, applause building like a rising tide. Joy's face hardened. "Oh, sit down, Harrison," she snapped. "You're being dramatic." But he didn't. He took a slow, deliberate step toward her side of the table. "Dramatic," he said, the word slicing like a blade. "You haven't seen dramatic. Keep going. I've got more." The air in the studio thickened. Joy flinched, just barely, and leaned back. Her eyes still sharp, but something in her retreating. Harrison planted both hands on the table. "You came at me to tear me down, thinking it would make you look strong. But all you've shown is how small you really are." He straightened, adjusted his jacket, and turned his back to her. "Come, final. I won't be part of this circus anymore." He walked. The audience erupted. Applause, gasps, stunned silence. Joy sat stiff, gripping the table's edge, knuckles white. Harrison moved toward the exit, silhouette framed by the harsh glow of stage lights. Joy shot up, voice cracking. "That's right, Harrison. Walk away, like you always do." He paused. Hand on the door frame, back still turned. Then slowly he pivoted. "You really don't get it," he said. Quiet. Cold. "This isn't about walking away. This is about knowing when to stop playing a rigged game." He took a step back toward her. Just a few paces. "Enough. You've spent your whole career pretending cruelty is strength. That sarcasm is intelligence. That humiliation makes for good television." He looked past her, to the hosts, the crew, the crowd. "But all it's done is leave you in that chair every morning, sneering at people who actually built something. While you sit and sneer." Joy opened her mouth. Nothing came. "I've spent 50 years showing up, telling stories, giving people something to feel. And no, not every film was perfect. Not everyone liked me." He stepped forward one more inch. "But I showed up. I gave people courage when they needed it. You gave them noise." He lowered his voice to a final whisper. "And today, you showed the world what it looks like when someone finally stops pretending to be decent." He didn't wait for a reply. He turned again, this time for good, and walked out, each step echoing louder than her silence. The studio was frozen. Even the cameras held still, as if they, too, understood something sacred had just cracked open. Joy folded her arms. A scoff cut through the silence like cheap armor. You done with your little speech, movie star? Harrison's lips curled into something between a smirk and sorrow. Yeah, he said quietly. I'm done. He took a step toward the exit, then paused, turning just enough to glance back at her. But you're not Joy. You've still got to sit in that chair tomorrow. And the next day. And every day after that. Looking into the camera, pretending any of this still means something. Her eyes didn't move, but the wall behind them cracked. You wake up, he continued. You look in the mirror, and you convince yourself that tearing people down is a kind of purpose. A kind of power. He straightened, smoothed his jacket, and exhaled. I hope one day you understand what it means to build something, to leave behind more than bruises and bite marks. He turned fully now, but until then, he let it hang. A beat, a stillness, then a quiet, almost regretful shake of the head. I've got nothing left to say to you. And just like that, he walked slow. Calm, unshaken. A ripple of murmurs stirred in the crowd. Applause began to rise, uneven, then swelling. Some in the audience stood as he passed, phones raised. A producer darted toward him near the door, whispering something urgent. Harrison didn't stop. He simply raised one hand, no anger, no theatrics, and kept walking. The door swung open, then closed behind him with a soft but thunderous click. Back at the table, Joy stood alone, arms still folded, jaw tight. But her eyes betrayed her, something flickering behind the defiance. Not just anger, shame. The other hosts didn't move. No one knew what to say. The silence stretched, thick as fog. In the control booth, someone finally had the sense to cut to commercial. But it was too late. The moment had already been immortalized, on phones, in tweets, and soon, on every news show in America. Commentators would spin it, fans would debate it, and think pieces would flood the timeline for weeks. Some called it the day Harrison Ford dismantled Joy Behar. Others said it was just another crack in the farce, age of daytime television. But everyone agreed on one thing that day. Indiana Jones walked out of The View with more dignity than the entire panel combined. And Joy Behar. She was left with nothing but the echo of the door, and the weight of her own words circling back to haunt her. What did you think of this unforgettable moment? Did Harrison Ford do the right thing by walking away? Or should he have stayed and stood his ground longer? Let us know in the comments. And if you found this story gripping, hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss another behind the scenes breakdown.